Some of you might not remember, but there was a time where you had to put in some physical effort to live with your car. A simple task such as rolling a window down required your undivided attention as well as the strength of an above average 6-year-old. Your best bet at avoiding heat was hoping that the day outside was cold. And it was the luckiest day for you if you found out that you had a radio instead of a black plastic cover. This was not some ancient history. You could buy a new car like this all the way until 2019. Which doesn't even sound like a real fact, but it is. Just look at the Dacia Sandero.
Great news! What? The Dacia...
What these cars lacked in comfort, they made up tenfold in affordability. A beautiful example of 2019 Sandero with very modern and rugged unpainted plastic bumpers would have put you back around 8,000 euros back then, which is only around 10,000 today. So you could choose between a 10-year-old luxury car which has seen a million butts already, or you could buy a new one and have your butt be the first one inside. So if these cars were really popular, why is the cheapest new Sandero 50% more expensive than it was back then? Couldn't they have just reused all the old Renault parts like they did before? And why was Dacia even the last one to do this? Stick around to find out. The first answer would probably be the car makers and their greed. But before we go after them for being giant gluttons that they are, let's give them some slack, as not everything was due to corporate greed. Car makers need to follow regulations of the country that their car is being sold in. So the final say in releasing a car into production is down to the government. The European Union has laid down some drastic rules which brought the cost up. First, it was the Euro 6 norm, which heavily favored smaller turbo engines instead of the bigger naturally aspirated ones, which were also cheaper to make. But this wasn't a huge deal for car makers, as cost of developing an engine would be offset if they sold tons of them. But the real reason for cost increase has been EU's major concern with driving safety. Since politicians think that all drivers have room temperature IQ, as of July 2024, the EU has mandated that a lot of new advanced tech must be implemented into new cars, including auto braking, speed limiters, and a lot more expensive and advanced technology. In the past, these wouldn't even be offered for cars like the Sandero, but now they're mandatory for everyone. Even worse, as of 2027, there will be even more advanced equipment required by the EU, which means the costs will only go up. Overall, this is probably a good thing for everyone, as a lot of people do drive like morons. But for us, the people who actually pay attention, this just feels like a tax for idiots. And this one is unavoidable. So whether you're an idiot or not, you're still paying. But these regulations still don't explain a lot of additional equipment that is present as standard nowadays. And some of it has to do with simplicity of making a new car, and now we get to the money. New cars are so well equipped that even if the cheapest Sandero were on offer at this price 10 years ago, it would have easily competed with Golf of the time. And Golf is meant for the middle class, not the cheapest car on the market. But having these luxury options installed might actually be cheaper than having the manual archaic ones. Let me explain this with power windows. Manual windows used to be the norm, as in the beginning the electronics were really bad and prone to breaking easily.
Changing mags!
Power windows were also expensive to get a hold of, so they remained obscure for a while. But as time went on, they became cheaper and more common, which meant including them into many more cars. Eventually, manufacturers ordered so many of them that it became cheaper to only use electric windows, rather than having a mix of two, as that required two different versions of a lot of parts and not just the window mechanisms themselves. This concept of economies of scale and diversity applies not only to the window switches, but also the AC, LEDs, steering wheels with buttons, and much more. And we do see more screens in cars as well. This is because it's actually much cheaper to just use the same screen and operating system across all your models, rather than having a unique combination of layouts and buttons on all of your cars. But even then, there are some new cars which offer everything as basic as possible. And I don't really see those on the road. If there is a new car on the road, it's pretty high spec. And this brings us to the third reason, the profit margin. When Dacia was making a big breakthrough in Western Europe, everyone was raving about cheapest car Europe has ever seen, especially since it was happening during the economic crisis. And that brought a lot of attention to the brand. Bragging with the really low prices made people fantasize about having a brand new car for less than a third of their yearly salary, and for less than the price of a 10-year-old Golf. But this was mostly a tactic to get people through the showroom door. Once customers saw that the only standard equipment was a steering wheel and an engine, they added a few bits of comfort as well. And suddenly it was sold for 8 or 10 instead. And that marketing enabled Dacia to storm through Europe. Now that everyone knows about them, they don't need to have a super cheap car to bring people into showrooms anymore. Still, they like to use this trick even to this day, just not to the same degree. Because it's easier to upsell if your car is cheapest in the Europe. Of course, upsell brings bigger profit margins, and that's how car makers make their money. But because this upsell actually works, then the next problem might actually be us, the buyers. For so many people, buying a new car from the dealership is a dream come true, and it's also a status symbol. And while buying a new thing, you obviously want it to be an improvement on what you already have. So if your previous car was the Yugo, chances are you already had nice bits and bobs inside. And also everyone wants to look better than their neighbor Nur Sultan.
He is my neighbor, Nur Sultan Tuliakbay. He is paining my assholes.
Given that reasoning, there's no real wonder that you don't see many of the cheapest dream cars on the road anymore. And the resale value of those is pretty garbage anyways. So the only remaining buyers for these entry-level models are companies which don't care about their workers' comfort, and of course grannies and grandpas, even older than the boomers. Given that these folks are almost extinct, there are no people willing to sit in a car listening only to a murmur of 1-liter TCE engine. No matter how low the price is, that just sounds like torture. So slowly but surely, all of those reasons led us to losing a truly affordable car. Have you ever driven a super cheap base car? How was it? Let me know in the comments below. Honestly, I don't see that we'll ever see a Dacia Sandero-like car anymore, especially with the Chinese coming here and cutting down our prices and offering better value for money. At least for now. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Also, you can share it, comment it, whatever you do helps a lot. Thanks a lot for staying this long, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks and goodbye.